right. Hey, hello, all the fellow hats out there, all you hunters, anglers, trappers, and shooters. Jim Curcuruto here with Outdoor Stewards of Conservation Foundation, and I'm here with.
Rob Southwick. I'm the president of Southwick Associates.
All right. So today, Rob and I are going to talk about a topic that we've talked about in the past, but it's an extremely important topic. And hey, let's get right into it. We're going to start off by sharing our screen so you can see what we're talking about. And the topic is welcoming new shooters, tactics to win participation from underrepresented communities. And again, Rob and I have talked about this in the past. And right now, we're in June 2025. And this topic is very, very timely for a lot of reasons. But before we get into those reasons, just a little bit of background about Outdoor Stewards Conservation Foundation. We were formed in 2021 as a 501c3 built on research, programs, and communications. We've actually got more than $1 million worth of free research available on our website, outdoorstewards.org. Got programs that take action on that research. Come with, donate a deer, fill a bag while filling your tag, all programs through Outdoor Stewards. We have an outdoor industry communication council that we manage with Wildlife Management Institute, and we've got a Keepers of the Wild public service announcement that's already generated $7 million in earned media. And we also have a podcast called the Connecting with Conservation podcast, again, that we partner with the Wildlife Management Institute on. We've got a new program coming out this fall, Hunters Hate Something, and you'll find out what that something is in 2025, so pay attention for that. And again, our tagline and mission is increasing cultural acceptance and participation in hunting, fishing, trapping, and target shooting. All right, so let's talk about target shooting. Again, not really anything new with this first one. We know that shooting sports is predominantly white male, has been and currently is. However, as Bob Dylan said, these times are changing, right? Non-Hispanic whites are going to be a minority in about 25 years. We know that current sales for target shooting and guns and outdoors are flattening right now through Southwick Associates Market Pulse. And just a few months ago, the NSSF research on target shooting participation showed an alarming statistic, a 17% decline in target shooting participation since 2022. That's a loss of 10 million participants. We had 63 million target shooters in 2022, down to 53 million target shooters in 2024. Good timing for this opportunity for new growth that we found out with this recent Outdoor Stewards research. And, want to recognize our partners as well as having Rob and Southwick Associates team. We also had DJ Case and Associates help tremendously on this project as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Rob, tell you a little bit about Southwick, and then we'll get into the data.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Brief background about Southwick Associates. We've been working, actually focused on the hunting and shooting and the fishing markets for 35 years. We do a lot of public research, such as we're going to share here today. We also do a lot of work that's confidential for individual businesses, all of it designed to help people obtain the information that's needed to make better decisions. So if you have any research questions, give us a call. All right. One slide only on the methods. Then we'll get into the results. But where did the data come from? We ran two surveys. The first one is a survey we did of the U.S. general population. It was used to identify the total number of people who have an interest in target shooting but have yet to try it. Then the second survey was much more in depth, where we broke the market out into the four major categories we're testing here. So I'll be referring to the non-traditional markets. These include the Asian American market, the Hispanic market, and African American market. And I say the non-traditional because, as Jim had mentioned in the past, target shooting is still traditionally a stale, pale male activity. But we do include the white market or Caucasian market, if you will, in this study for comparison purposes, and also to help us achieve a large sample size of women and figure out how we can help them join our activity also. Go ahead. So some of the initial results. When it comes to people who have yet to try target shooting, there is a very high level of interest. Nearly two-thirds of males who have not gone would like to try it, and over half of women also want to try it. When I say they want to try it, it means we ask them on a scale of 1 to 5 their level of interest, where 3 is neutral. So those who said their interest level is 4 or 5 are included in this study. We broke the results out then by those non-traditional markets. And what you see here is compared to our traditional market, these markets, but regardless of the race or ethnicity, they have the same level of interest in trying target shooting. So it's not the appearance of someone that determines whether they want to try target shooting. It is something more. We'll dive into that. Next, please. Altogether, we're looking at 70 million people who are not in the traditional Caucasian market who have a high level of interest in target shooting. And I want to emphasize that this is not a DEI project. This is all about growing the business. There are people out there with the same motivations as our current customers who want to try target shooting, and we're going to talk about how to increase our total number of customers.
Yeah, I want to ask you here real quick, Rob. When I
Yeah.
first saw the report, I was like, well, that's a typo. Can't be 70 million, right? And then I went back and did the math. So explain real quick the math on this.
Yeah, so I had the same concern at first too. Well, as we know, in a few years, half the United States will be non-white. So you're already looking at about 130, 135 million people who fit these non-traditional markets. And with over half to two-thirds, you're hitting 70 million people who would like to try it. And this is significant because as we know, there's about 60 million people who target shoot right now. We're not going to get all 70 million of these new people to try it. But if we can get 10% of them, that'd be major growth for our industry. But we need to understand their motivations and barriers first in order to help them cross that line and join us.
Right? Yeah. I mean, 70 million, get 10%, 7 million. I'd win back about, majority of that 10 million that we lost recently. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, hit the next slide. One of the first things we did was to ask them, well, why? Why do you want to try target shooting? So again, these are people who have not been, but had the high level of interest in trying it. And you can see in the bottom there, the top reason is no different than anyone else, is they want to be able to protect themselves, whether at home or away from home. But it's more than that. There's a lot of overlap in here. There's other reasons, the challenge, the acquiring a new skill, and the fun. Fun is overarching across all this. And you don't see any major differences based on what people look like. There's some minor differences. You can see that, for example, the Asian market is more into the fun and excitement, not so much for the African American market. Asian market's well more into the challenge, but those differences are really not that major. Their motivations really do not vary based on what someone looks like. Go ahead, next. If you're interested in the motivations why people want to target shoot, I encourage you to visit this website. This is a free report that was also funded by a grant from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. This describes the 10 personas that make up all target shooters and hunters in the United States. It breaks out their motivations, and you can break it out by the age, demographic, and more. So the next part of this project is we ask people, okay, you haven't been yet, but we know back during the COVID period, we did have several million people from non-traditional audiences try it. Why didn't you? What's holding you back? And the first reason why they told us, and we didn't prompt them, we just gave them a large list, didn't talk about any further. So this is off the top of their heads. They're saying, well, I haven't gone because I don't own a firearm. Well, of course they don't own a firearm. They haven't tried it yet. I mean, we all have a lot of toys in the garage that we wouldn't have bought unless we tried the activity first. Then they're saying the second reason is, well, it's probably expensive. Well, everything's expensive until you really know if you really want to try it or enjoy it or not. Third reason, they're saying they don't know which type of firearm to try, and they never will until we get them to a range. And the fourth, they say they have no one to go with. But we just learned there's 70 million people out there who would like to try. So if they're motivated enough, they can find someone to take with them to a range. And then we had overall 17 reasons we checked. It wasn't we got down to reason number 15. They say they don't think they would feel safe doing it. And this is an important point to note because there's good research and there's bad research. Bad research accepts what people tell you at face value. Well, it's really important to understand that a lot of people don't understand why they do or don't do something. You have to peel away layers of the onion to find the core reason. And this is the reason why. Jim?
Yeah, and a lot of those I don't have a firearm. It'd be too expensive. I don't know which type to try. Can be solved by two simple words, right? Have an existing firearm owner or target shooter say, hey, come with me to the range, right? And this is where you want to challenge your current customers that are active participants. Hey, we challenge you to bring somebody with you to the range. Send us your stories and we'll post them on our Facebook page or whatever the case may be. So that come with, that everybody, goes to the range already. Just bring somebody with you. There's a really good example of how to take action on some of this research.
Absolutely. To boil down the research in the report, and that all will be available for you to digest on your own, the overarching barrier to them not trying target shooting yet is their perception of safety. They want to know, they need to know that they will be safe when they visit a range, and just as importantly, that others around them will also be safe, that this new visitor won't hurt anybody. Let's dig down to that a little bit deeper. We'll start by how do we attract them? How do we bring them to the range? How do we help them overcome these concerns? Next. So the idea is we have to get the idea in their head that they're welcome and it's a good thing to try. So what they need to know before they ever visit you in person is that safety is your priority. From the very moment they walk into the door until they leave, safety is paramount. They want to know what to expect. That is, when they open that door, what are they going to see? Where do they go? How are they going to learn to be safe? What are people doing in there? How are they going to be treated? And what is expected of them? Do they need to have knowledge ahead of time about safety, or is that something they can learn on site? They don't understand any of this. They want to know if people will be on hand to help them understand their fear. And they've never been to a range. They've been hesitating. So this hesitation in part is they're afraid they'll walk into the range. Someone's going to hand them a firearm and say, go at it. That is their fear. They want to know, will someone be there to tell me how I can do this and do it properly, and no one around me will be in danger either. And then they also want to know, will gear be available for them to either rent or loaner gear? They don't want to walk into a situation and be hit with an expensive bill. There's many other reasons that things they need to know ahead of time, but these top four are the key ones you need to focus on.
Yeah, and I think, again, you might be having flashbacks to, mid-pandemic when we identified that there was 10 million new gun owners out there, and same type of thing. We wanted them to go to the range when they could, and safety was a priority back then. Education, and then we've seen some really good examples of education for these first-time gun owners. Because what do we expect? What do you expect when you go to the range? How do I use these firearms that I just bought? So, Gunsmarts from Smith and Wesson comes to mind. It's a great series of basic 101 firearm courses that they have on their website. If you don't have those, you might want to put some resources for these, to welcome these new shooters.
So how do we get their attention? How do we get this information to them, knowing they're not going to come to the store until they have this information? So we talk to them. Number one, the great God Google. They're going to go online and look for information. They're going to learn about your range. They're going to see who's close to them. They're going to talk to their friends and family as always. And as Jim had mentioned, that's your number one recruiters. Get your current customers to bring along a friend, a new person. They're going to look for reviews on your website and other websites. They want to know, are people like them welcome? When I say people like them, I'm talking about beginners. They also want to know if you also accept and welcome the non-traditional market. But number one, they see themselves as a beginner, as a first timer, before they see themselves as anything else. And then YouTube is an important one here also, because as mentioned, they want to know ahead of time what to expect. And this is a great opportunity to put videos up on YouTube and your website that shows them, here's what you see when you pull in the parking lot. Here's what you see when you open the door. Walk to your left. You'll be greeted here, and you'll start the training, the safety education process. We also tested a number of images that you can use in these pre-communications that will resonate best. Again, a picture speaks 1,000 words. What do you want to show people to convey to them that you are welcoming to non-traditional audiences? So we tested a series of photos best based on the motivations that they told us were the primary reasons why they want to try target shooting. So we're going to go through 4 different types of photo sets here based on the major types of firearms they may want to try at a range. Next. First one we tested were shotgun images. We gave them 3 images. Now remember, these are going to people who have never been target shooting before. We asked them which ones convey fun, safety, skills, challenge, and being welcoming. So of these 3 pictures, think about which one do you think might be best in your ad. Survey says the one on the left. Remember, safety is paramount. Safety is number one. The one on the left looks like a controlled environment. Obviously, they know what they're doing. They're working together in the situation. It's a controlled environment. The picture in the middle does show someone who's from the non-traditional audiences, but this person's by himself. They want to see that advisor, some kind of safety person there. And then the picture on the right is scored close to the second one, but again, it shows someone from our more traditional stale pale male audience. It didn't rate low, it just did not rate as well as the other pictures. Next one. The next 3 photos tested traditional rifles. So these 3 pictures, which ones do you think would play best in your ads to attract these non-traditional audiences to your product or to your range? Survey says. This one's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. The one in the middle, it shows a controlled environment. Most importantly, it shows someone else there who's an instructor, a safety person. That person is looking at the student. That student is in a very safe situation, which is what our new shooters want to have. Also, they're smiling. Remember, the fun, this overarching. They want to have a good time while they're doing this. The other 2 photos scored okay. The one on the far right did second best. But again, this gentleman's by himself. The third picture, you don't know what's going on there. It's not a controlled environment. It just didn't rate well at all. Next.
Well, I know we have the 3 R's for recruit, retain, reactivate, we have the 3 I's for that recruitment also, incentive, information, and invitation. And now I'm thinking we got 2 S's, safety and smiles. So if you think of a third one, Rob, let's come up with the 3 S's. But so far, safety
I
and
like it.
smiles are paramount.
I like it. All right. Next one we're showing here is which pictures of modern sporting rifles resonated best. Take a quick moment, pick the one that you think rated the best. Go ahead, Jim. All right, kind of a trick here. The first one and the second one were tied. The one in the middle probably would have rated first if the gentleman was looking at her, indicating that, hey, there's a beginner that's being watched by someone experienced. Also, it might have rated number one if it showed a more controlled environment. For the observers here are new shooters, these could be 2 experts in the field doing something that beginner doesn't understand at all. The one on the left, though, is great. You see smiles again, it's a controlled environment, but you don't see that instructor staying close to her, making sure that she is safe. Picture on the far right, really don't know what's going on there. And the final set of slides, handguns. So looking at these 3 here, kind of a trickier set. The best photo in the group is on the far right. Yes, these 2 are from our traditional stale pale male audience, but this picture conveys safety better than the others. They're in a very controlled environment. It's clear who the beginner is. It's clear who the instructor is. The instructor has his attention on the student and on the activity at the range. Picture on the far left could be a beginner thrown out there by herself. That is the fear of our new customers. In the picture in the middle, we know what's going on because we've been to ranges before. The beginners don't. And to the best extent you can, you need to show what the action's all about. It's about firing firearms, and you don't see one in this picture. Jim?
All right. Well, it seems like well, I guess we'll go to the next one here, but as we're doing that, I potentially have a third S of social, right? Social activity.
Perfect.
It's not, I mean, something a new person's not going to do by themselves, right? It's somewhat of a social activity. So, if that makes sense, we can add that as our third S for right now.
You did it. You got
Smiles,
it.
safety, and social.
Perfect. All right. We asked these potential new customers what kind of promotions would bring them into a shop or a range. We tested six of them, but only two of them really scored high. Number one is the one on the bottom there is give them that all-inclusive package so they can try it before they buy it. Same concept if you go to a bowling alley or even go to a golf course where you can obtain the gear you need. Make sure they understand that opportunity exists at your range and they're more likely to visit. Also, they are intimidated by experienced shooters. And just as importantly, they don't want to interfere. They don't want to get in the way of people who know what they're doing. So whether you have lanes reserved for beginners or whether you have events, evenings for beginners only, will help you to win their business. They need to know that information in advance of them making that decision to visit. We asked them what kind of services they want at the range. And if you look down, these are the top six. They all have one common denominator, safety. Will the gear be there? Will people be watching over them? They don't know what a range safety officer is. They don't know that it's mandatory at most ranges. Again, they haven't been to a range. They don't know what you know. They want to know if someone can show them how to use the firearm safely and how to carry themselves at the range, the mandatory safety instruction, and more. Think safety at all times when attracting this new audience. Next. So wrapping it up here, there's two major thoughts that you need to have in mind. Everything else will play out if you understand these two and really internalize them. Number one is safety throughout. You have to make sure, go ahead and click the next two up here, that no matter what goes on, you are thinking safety at all times. Second, make sure that they understand that you welcome beginners and that you welcome members of the non-traditional shooting community, that people from the non-traditional communities are attended and are welcome at your range. With that, Jim, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, and just what I've noticed from the three winning photos, right? Smiles and safety and social, and these are great type of images that we would suggest. You've got a staff full of probably a lot of target shooters on your employee payroll. So, take a day, go to the range, and, you can stage these type of photos, and you can do them with firearms in the photos. Put on maybe branding, your company branding on the hats or on the shirts. So it's specific to your brand. But I would also suggest some very similar photos, but without the firearm in them, or at least without the firearm in the hand. It could be on, in the background a little bit or whatnot. And that's coming from experience of, trying to boost some ads on social media that had firearms in them and getting in Facebook jail in the past. But, that's ever changing. So who knows what will be happening with social media. But if you're going to take the trouble to go to the range, take some photos with and without firearms in them. And I'll go back to action. We talked a little bit about it before. Rob and I would be glad to have someone pay us to research 5 years from now to tell us, how's target shooting participation. But we want to see better results. We want to see people take action, or these, take some of the recommendations we talked about. Outdoor Stewards Conservation Foundation, for example, is right now working with the Kentucky Department of Natural Resources, Department of Fish and Wildlife, all throughout 2025 on our Come With program for hunting, for trapping, for target shooting. We just wrapped up the spring turkey season in Kentucky. Did a big campaign, social media boosting. You'll notice this photo of the turkeys harvested does not have firearms in it. That allowed us to boost it. They have 310 active hunting license holders in Kentucky. Great results. We saw a nice lift from this campaign, especially from either reactivated or first-time licensed buyers. So again, we know it works. You 310,000. Yes, you challenge 310,000 hunters to bring somebody with you. And if 1,000 of them bring somebody, right, it's a win. If a couple hundred of them do, it's a win, and it doesn't cost you nothing but some challenge on your social media and your newsletters. We're going to do the same thing here coming up this summer. We're taking someone target shooting. We're going to do deer hunting in the fall and then trapping in the winter. So if you want to get involved with the Come With program, feel free to reach out to myself. If you want to dig into this research and all the other research, $1 million of research, we have on a lot of different topics at outdoorstewards.org. Click on the research and resources tab, and then we've got different sections for hunting, fishing, target shooting available for you. And if you don't want to read the report and want to ask Rob a question or myself a question, feel free to reach out at any time. And hey, we appreciate you listening in, and thank you for being stewards of conservation.